Good morning, everyone, and thank you so much for having us today. My name is Emma. I'm the Patient Advocacy Lead for AstraZeneca in the UK. And what that means is that I get the privilege of working with our patient community, with patient organisations like Helen's, to make sure that we're identifying areas for collaboration and different projects that we can do together to improve care for patients. But I'm also able to bring in the insights and represent the patient experience in a way that's evidence-led, and it's not based on assumptions. So I'm really pleased to have this opportunity to be in conversation with Helen today. I don't think you need any introduction in this room, but we've been a proud supporter of AMMF for a number of years now, and today is a chance to talk about the collaboration, our shared priorities, and what brings us together in cholangiocarcinoma. So at AstraZeneca, we have a bold ambition to eliminate cancer as a cause of death. You might have seen our Cancer Project Zero stand outside that kind of educates on that ambition, but nowhere is that ambition more urgently needed than in cholangiocarcinoma, where incidence continues to rise and survival remains persistently low. That's a key focus for us to make sure that we're addressing those concerns in cholangiocarcinoma. And we're really pleased to be sponsoring this conference once again, and to be part of this community so focused on improving outcomes for patients and everyone affected by this disease. Meetings like this bring together the perspectives and the opinions from so many different stakeholders, and it really provides us with an opportunity to talk about how we increase earlier diagnosis, improve equitable care, and further support for people affected. So one of the things that I wanted to start with by talking to Helen today is that one of the biggest challenges in cholangiocarcinoma is how difficult it is to diagnose early. And we know that raising awareness of the condition is huge in this area. So could you tell us a bit about what AMMF is doing to raise awareness of cholangiocarcinoma and what needs to change if we're going to improve this going forward?
Well, thank you very much, Emma, and I'm delighted to have the opportunity to speak with you. And AMMF shares AstraZeneca's ambition for the Cancer Project Zero. I always get those three words the wrong way around, but we do. As far as raising awareness is concerned, we're working with our Rethink Liver Cancer campaign, which is in its third year now. And a major problem with cholangiocarcinoma is the misperceptions. It's very rare. It only happens in the elderly, neither of which is true. Lack of data has been the major problem. But since AMMF's data project and the NHS's own data, we do now have robust data. And this does show that the incidence is increasing year on year, and many younger people are being affected. The incidence also is now shown to be similar to the other main primary liver cancer, hepatocellular carcinoma, yet cholangiocarcinoma remains the Cinderella of cancers. Hepatocellular carcinoma gets a lot of attention, cholangiocarcinoma doesn't. So first and foremost, what we do need is much better recognition of cholangiocarcinoma for the cancer it actually is, a primary liver cancer. And AMMF will continue through its campaigns to draw the attention of those at all levels who have the power and the will to make policy change to do this. We've got a number of new diagnostic techniques coming along now, which is really exciting, liquid biopsies, breath tests, and so on. But we really do need cholangiocarcinoma to be considered for these so that they can be applied early in investigations. And we need to find a way to actually bring the attention of cholangiocarcinoma to the very overloaded GPs, because often they're the gatekeepers to what happens next, and it's there very often that is the first point of failure for our patients with cholangio.
Excellent. And I think it's really interesting what you've reflected on there in terms of the data, and it feels like we're only now starting to get some of the data that educates us on what the problems are. And one of the recent analyses from AMMF, which we found really helpful, was looking at kind of the variation in care and the inequalities that everyone is facing. And we know that as cholangiocarcinoma is so difficult to diagnose early, many patients miss the opportunity for surgery. But I think what really struck us in your data project is that only half of patients are getting any form of cancer-specific care, which just isn't good enough. So what we want to do, kind of based on this, is work together and identify areas where we can address health inequalities, where persistent challenges remain. We know that referral to treatment times are much longer for Black and non-white ethnic groups. We know that geographical disparities exist in mortality, in incidence, in routes to diagnosis and treatments available. And there's also significant disparities associated with higher levels of deprivation. So given addressing these gaps is a key priority for us, and it was called out so explicitly in the National Cancer Plan, we're really excited about AMMF's kind of Centres of Expertise project, and kind of being able to support you with that going forward. So could you tell us a bit more about that and where we are in terms of the project?
Well, AstraZeneca's support for this particular project is hugely appreciated. When you take on a major project, obviously there's huge amounts of money involved, because nothing gets done without that. So, as we all know, in every area of life. But because we hear similar stories so often, and as you know, there are differences across the nation in the treatments and the outcomes that people have. And we can see that this does seem to stem from where people actually receive their diagnosis and their treatment. And we hear so many times of people getting diagnosed and being told there's nothing that can be done, which is really shameful today, because we know there is. Possibly not surgery immediately, but there are treatments, and it's very wrong to be told there is nothing. So we suspect that this is because people perhaps get their diagnosis in a district or general hospital where there just isn't the expertise, and not everybody can know everything about every disease. But what they should do is to say to the patient, this is what you're diagnosed with. Actually, I'm not an expert in this area, so let me refer you to someone who is. And that just doesn't happen. So we want to try and work out what is actually happening across the country. Why, if this is happening, are people being held back in the district and general hospitals? And I'm, sort of just putting that out there, and not referred to more specialist and knowledgeable consultants. So this was really the basis, coming on from our data project, this was the basis of undertaking our Centres of Expertise project, because we want very specialised MDTs. We want centres where patients can be sure they're getting the care that they need, but we have to have the building blocks to prove that these centres are needed. So to embark on building a strong foundation of evidence for such centres, we're now beginning a hospital audit, and that begins actually next week with a survey of the hospitals, just to see, what is going on there. All the hospitals in England initially, but we hope that it will be across the UK eventually. We're starting with the major sort of liver centres, and then in the autumn we'll be sending out the main audit, where we want to and that will go to all hospitals, not just the liver centres, it will go everywhere. And we want to know how many cholangio patients are they seeing, what treatments are these patients receiving, what the outcomes there are. And once we have all of that data back and we can analyse it, we might get a better grasp of what is actually going on around the country, and that will help us to sort of move on forward with our ask for these centres of expertise.
Can I ask, is there an opportunity for people in this room to get involved? Is there any advocacy work that you need to make sure that we're getting the insights that we need?
Well, if anybody's working in any of these hospitals, when you see the questionnaire come in, fill it in, send it back in a timely manner. When the audit comes in, it's important, do it, send it back. We'd be extremely grateful. It's going to come, it's accredited by the BSG and it's under the auspices of CCA UK and Basel. So we haven't just made it up. This is very serious work, and it will be extremely important. And I think actually it's the first time in cholangiocarcinoma something like this has been carried out. So yes, please get involved. And I did mention all of this work costs an enormous amount of money. So if you can't get involved in the audit, I hate doing this, but donate to AMMF because we could really do with the money. So do you want me to go on a little bit more about how, well, this actually, for us, you know, we always say at AMMF, the patient and their loved ones, you are at the absolute heart of everything we do. Everything we do is for you, to try and get a better future for all those who have this most challenging of cancers. So if we could move the project forward, if it helps give the evidence that we feel is there, and this was very similar with our data project, we could see what was happening. We just didn't have the data to prove it, so we were brushed aside all the time. This should give us even stronger evidence. And with that, you know, we hope that we can come to a time when all patients will receive the best advice and the best care pathways for their personal situation. And then they can really have confidence, not coming on our forums saying, I feel I'm being neglected, I feel I'm being passed over. We never want to hear that again. And that's what we're working towards.
Absolutely. And I think collaboration is one of those things that's going to get us there. So, you know, it's led by AMMF with input from CCA UK, but also we're dependent on the healthcare professionals and the patients and their families to all get involved in these kinds of projects too. And the thing that we have benefited from as a commercial organisation is the insight that is brought to us by AMMF. And I know Helen personally has helped us with a lot of our patient-facing materials to make sure that what we're doing is accessible, it's easy to understand, and it reflects the patient's experience. So they've collaborated with us to create some tear-off pads which support conversations between patients and healthcare professionals, making sure that everyone's speaking the same language and that patients know what they can expect. You more recently helped us with a resource that we were creating around wellness and well-being for people from the time of diagnosis. So looking at the 3 pillars of prehabilitation, so mental and emotional well-being, exercise, nutrition. We were able to kind of co-create a material that we're now rolling out to centres to help people who are facing this diagnosis know how to best take care of themselves to be able to get better outcomes for treatments. And you know, we couldn't do that work without you, so we're very grateful.
It works both ways, obviously, and we're hugely grateful to you for how you come to us for our input, and that's really important. And if I say to you, that's not a really nice way to approach this, you take it on board, and everything that you do, everything that we do is for the patient, and that's at the heart of what we do. And, you know, none of us are going to solve the problem of this challenging cancer on our own, and it takes input from the likes of industry such as yourselves, your tremendous help, and the passion that all of us at AMMF bring to this area. And hopefully, this whole conference has been incredibly heartening because I can see how things are moving forward so rapidly, but we just need it faster, more, faster, and out there for the patients. But it's great to have the collaboration.
Absolutely. I know that I've got 1 minute left and I don't want to get between anyone and their coffee. So I just want to close today's session by saying thank you for having us, and thank you for all of the work that you and AMMF are doing, Helen. Today's conversation has really been about the collaboration and how we're only going to kind of bring the progress in cholangiocarcinoma by working together, increasing awareness so that people can receive a diagnosis earlier, streamlining pathways so that patients can receive some form of cancer-specific treatment, and listening to patients and their families to make sure that everyone gets the care and the support that they need. Unfortunately, we don't have time for questions, but if there's anything you'd like to discuss, we'll be on the stand outside during the coffee break, and we'd love to continue the conversation further. So thank you so much, Helen.
Thank you.